Now, bending is essentially the same thing as vibrato, except you don't do it as repeatedly, and you usually go to you do a higher pusher of, higher pull down. So let's start with our first bend. If we do 7th fret, doing that note, we're going to try to bend up a half step, 1 fret. And as you do bends, there are bends that require using the fingers. If that's the case, then you want to use as many fingers as you can. These kind of Chuck Berry sort of classic rock things, they're all over the place really. But if you ever have to do a finger bend, you want to try and use an available finger, another finger to support the first finger, because bending with one finger is difficult. For now, we're going to do wrist bending. So we're trying to bend to the 8th fret note. We're trying to hit that note. So from the 7th fret, you want to play the 8th fret first, get it in your ear, and then try to bend up and see if you can reach that pitch. You need to use your ear. Bending is as much developed in the ear as it is in the hands, because you don't want to bend and not know where the note's going. The beautiful part about a bend is you hear the note and it's swinging upwards, and where it catches the ear, and where's that note going to. So you always want to have a clear destination every time you bend. You want to know where you're going to stop. So, and as you do a bend, you want to use as many fingers, at least in the beginning stages, as you can to support the bend. And remember that you're pivoting this way. I almost tell people to air bend as they start to play, or you're swiveling this way. You're not doing this where like your fingers are pushing. That would be a finger bend, and that does happen. But I don't recommend people trying to learn that initially. You're kind of going to start to do that most likely naturally, because up until now we've never played guitar at all with the wrist. We've only used the fingers to fret notes and stuff like that, and so it's a very common thing to try to like push this way or be under here. And just remember that you got to be over. You have to have a nice ballsy grip. Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Talon hands. You got to come around the neck that way. You have to have a point, a fulcrum for all the pressure that you're going to be pushing against. So that's the general idea on how to bend. A lot of it is just feel. People do bend differently. There's all sorts of different techniques. Everybody has their own style. What's important is that it feels right to you and that you feel like you have control of the string. A subtle thing that I've learned that I've kind of want to talk about is that a lot of it has to do with this angle here. Now, if you come in and you're trying to play your bend and you're coming right on the fingertips, a good equation to that would be the way your fingers look when you play a C major chord, is that they're very on the fingertips. They're almost curled out of the way of the string underneath them. Now, you don't want that because like you want to kind of curl your fingers a little bit more underneath. So as you're taking the string, you're almost coming underneath and you're scooping it upwards. So you're not too much like this. You're around a little bit more. I hope that makes sense. Is that the more you're on your fingertips, the more the pressure is going directly straight into the neck, which is great for fretting the note. But if you're trying to push the note this way, you need to get under the string more, to where when you push it, the string pushes its, gravity fights back, and the tension actually pushes the string back into your fingertip instead of doing with your fingertips this way, and it kind of slips out from under you, which is common. So you want to have it curled a little bit more, curled less rather, a little flatter, coming from underneath the string, knowing that you're going to scoop it upwards. So I would start with a half step bend initially until you're comfortable. So 8th fret, you're trying to bend from 7 to 8. Okay, and then you can go to full step. The same pitch, if you're doing full step bends, the same pitch is at the 5th fret of the 2nd string. So if you have to do finger bends, you take, if you got to use the fingers, you got to use the fingers. I mean, it's always better to allow the tension of that string to transfer through the fingers into the wrist, but it's not always possible. Excuse me. So if you have to do finger bends, just make sure that you have a nice solid grip, and that you use, you know, for instance, if you're bending with the third finger, at least use the middle finger, if not the first finger, to help push that string up. It makes your life a lot easier. And don't try bending like below the 5th fret, because it gets real tight back here. You know, try bending 7th fret to 12th fret or something. It's much, much easier initially until you have strength.